Hi, good morning. My name is Chen, and today I'm presenting the paper Attendance Check-in Apps and Academic Performances. This is a collaboration work with Chen and Yuan. Yuan is a professor at Zhejiang Gongshan Universities, and Jason and I are both from University of Minnesota. So, mobile phones have now become an important part of our daily lives, and educators have started to use it in the classroom. Attendance check-in apps are mobile apps that live on students' phone, and instructors can use these phones to check attendance as a drop-in solutions for traditional attendance check-in methods. And the reason why we want to use these app-based attendance check-in solutions boils down to the educational benefits. We want to have a fast and accurate method for taking attendance. Traditional methods such as sign-in sheets or roll calls are inefficient and may even be inaccurate. It is time-consuming for roll calls, especially when you have a lot of students. With the attendance checking apps, most of the downsides of the traditional methods can be addressed. In the app, students can only sign in for themselves, and furthermore, these apps can be integrated with other softwares that allows the instructors to automatically get a summary of the attendance for each class without a need to input data from sign-in sheets. And each student can walk in the classroom and check in by themselves on their phones, freeing up the time that would otherwise be used for roll calling. And in the US, some big schools such as Columbia and Indiana University has started to introduce the app-based check-in. And in China, 1.4 million schools are using DingTalk, a very popular app in China. And in Singapore, 80% of the educational institutes have adopted some sort of mobile check-in. However, while we start to bring this app into our classrooms, we do not fully understand the consequences of doing so. In fact, we are seeing anecdotal backlashes. Some students complain about privacy intrusiveness of the app. One example is that University of Missouri students raised concern about the Spotted Edu app, a very popular attendance checking app in the US. They worry about their privacy. And similar reports have attracted national attention, and there are a few media coverages from other states in the US. And these arguments prompt us to have a better quantification of the value and the cost of using attendance checking apps in the classroom. And therefore, these are our research questions. First, we want to know if app-based tracking would affect students' learning qualities, and if so, is this effect positive or negative? And finally, what may be the contributing factors to this effect? With this research question in mind, we reviewed the literature and we cannot come up with a clear answer with the existing research that we found. Well, first, app-based tracking is a form of monitoring or surveillance. However, most of the monitoring literature focuses on the workplace settings, many of which are not directly generalizable to the educational context. So, in this street of literature, we found that monitoring employees using video or software solutions can both increase or decrease the performance. On the one hand, workplace monitoring provides a assessment metrics and provide management a tool to incentivize the employees to perform better. For example, surveillance provides a specific goal for workers in the factory, such as widget manufactured per hour. And monitoring also works by preventing undesirable behavior, such as employee theft or non-compliance of certain rules. The goal of implementing monitoring is to let the employees know that they will be caught for conducting undesirable behavior and thus have a deterrence effect. And that serves as a signal of management commitment, which means that the employees know that the management is serious about preventing such behavior to the extent where implementing, surveillance solutions is necessary. This encourages the employees to follow the rules or dedicate more efforts. But on the other hand, implementing surveillance may also introduce privacy concerns and hurts the performance. Many workers complain that monitoring is the big brother, and that hurts the morale of the workplace. Workers also feel that they are being distrusted, and thus may retaliate for being distrusted, which affects the performance. The awareness of monitoring may also lead to additional stress, which also hurts the performance. Studies show that workers reported a higher level of stress even when they received positive feedback from the monitoring results. A related concept is called techno stress, which is the stress specifically caused by technology. This framework suggests that intrusiveness of technology could be a predictor of techno stress. So to answer our research questions, we collaborate with a university in Asia to conduct a field study. We take advantage of their curriculum and instructor arrangement to design a study that allows us to study the causal effects. In this semester, there are two concurrent courses, Python and C, which were taught by the same instructor. Each class has two sections, so we have 4 sections in total. For each course, we randomly assign one of these sections to be the treatment group and the other one as a control group. So in Python and C, we have one treatment group and one control group in each of the course. So students are now in two conditions. In the manual check-in condition, which is the control condition, we employ the classical sign-in sheet method, where students write down their 3-digit student ID on the sign-in sheets. This process was fast enough that there was never a waiting line. And for the app-based check-in method, everything is kept the same except that students are now required to download an app that verifies the location of the students upon check-in. Although we randomly chose the sections to be the treatment section or control section, students' assignment to sections is not necessarily random because students may have other courses to take. They are clustered around, a single cohort. So therefore, we designed a study timeline that allows us to utilize the difference in difference framework to adjust this issue. So here's the study timeline. At the very beginning, both groups are using the manual check-in method. We distributed a survey at the beginning of the course that collects some control variables. We have 2 quizzes before and after the midterm exam. Right before the midterm exam, we distributed another survey that asks students to report their tenor stress level. Then, we introduced the check-in app in the treatment group. Quiz 3 and Quiz 4 were conducted after the check-in app was introduced, so as the final exam. After the final exam, we ask students again about their tenor stress level. So here is an overview of our dependent variables. So let's start with the learning outcomes. Here, the in-class quiz scores that is measuring the in-class learning quality. Instead of using the raw scores, we use the relative exam scores, which is the difference between the actual score and the average score of the course. By taking the relative scores, we can take the quiz difficulty into account and compare across courses and different sections. Finally, we have 2 observations of the self-reported tenor stress. We asked students to answer the survey item, quote, "I feel stressed by the technology used in the class," unquote. And we start by looking at the average effects of these quizzes. In this slide and in the following slides, I present 4 different versions of regression models for completeness. Because the third and the fourth model includes individual fixed effects and matching, in theory they are the ones with the least bias. I'll focus on interpreting the coefficients from these 2 models. Here we see that clearly there is a negative and significant effects on the in-class quizzes. On average, students are performing about 0.72 points lower than their peers in the control group. The quizzes are out of 8 points, so 0.72 points is about 9%. We also found that female students are more severely affected in a separate set of regressions using split sample. Then, our next research question is, what could be causing this? It is then natural to look at the treatment effects on the tenor stress. Recall that we have 2 surveys that measures the tenor stress of the students. The first measure was collected right before the treatment, and the second one is at the end of the semester. Here we can see that students in the treatment group reported about 0.58 points higher tenor stress than their matched pairs, and that translates into about 11%. This suggests that students in the treatment groups are reporting higher stress due to the use of the app. So here's the recap of what we have from our analysis. First, we found that there is a significant negative impact on the in-class learning quality by 9%. And interestingly, we also found that this effect is greater for female students in a separate set of split sample regressions. And second, we found that students in the treatment group had 11% higher tenor stress. We further conducted a mediation analysis and found that the tenor stress does partially mediate the relationship between the attendance check-in app and the in-class learning quality, which is the quiz scores. And therefore, the mechanism is likely to be that app-based check-in increased the tenor stress, and this stress subtly affected students' in-class learning quality. So in sum, this paper provides the first causal evidence that implementing app-based check-in could have a negative impact on in-class learning quality. And we suggest that this effect may be due to the heightened internal stress that's caused by the check-in app. At a higher level, we review that there may be unintended consequences of implementing monitoring technologies in general in educational settings. To this end, our results also provide some practical implications. First, educators should be aware of the negative impact on in-class learning qualities. Although it may seem fine if the students only look at the exam scores, it is possible that students have to put extra efforts after class or even cramming to get a higher scores in the exam. The negative effects on the in-class learning qualities should not be neglected. Our work also generalized to other monitoring software, not only to the attendance checking apps. For example, Proctorio is an exam monitoring software widely used in the US for online exams, but it also received collective complaints from students saying that the software causes an invasion of privacy. And it is not just Proctorio, 4 other proctoring services also received similar complaints. So, given our results and some anecdotal evidence, perhaps it is really the time to rethink how we employ monitoring technologies in the classroom, given the potential negative impact on learning qualities. Thank you for attending my presentation, and please enjoy the rest of the conference.